ARK Invest's Bitcoin monthly report for the month of September is out, and they are predicting a year-end rally. So I'm going to go ahead and break down the monthly report. I'm going to give you my thoughts and my opinions on the matter, and I'm going to try to translate it in a way that makes sense for the layperson. But before we get to that, be sure to subscribe, be sure to hit the like button, and be sure to follow me on X and Threads. So the Bitcoin monthly report, we first start off with the market summary. Okay, this is the summary point in which they take all their points and give you everything just up front, basically like the TLDR. So they say that in September, Bitcoin was kind of in a neutral territory. And the reason for that was because it didn't surpass its 200-day moving average at 63,000 in September, but it did do that in October. All right, so this is the most important thing here. By October 14th, the price had surpassed both levels. That's including the short-term holder cost basis at 62,000 and the 200-day moving average at 63,000. Now, the reason why this is so important is because those are seen as levels of extreme resistance. And as Bitcoin overcomes those levels of extreme resistance, it gains momentum, and buyers are paying attention to that kind of thing, and buyers go and they buy on that strength. So they also talk about the transaction value, Bitcoin's transaction value, for the month, showing a lack of network activity. That's kind of a bearish point by them. They talk about the stablecoin supply ratio oscillator. All right, it's just a measure that assesses Bitcoin purchasing power. That hit oversold territory in September. Again, that's a bullish sign. And they also talk about the overall economy, including the China stimulus that happened and the quit rate. We'll cover that in the back half of this slideshow. And the most important thing here is that, according to ARK Invest, the trend is still bullish. And now they specifically call out the lack of network activity in September as being kind of a small weak point, but I think this is just kind of seasonal, month-to-month noise, personally. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. So they talk about the Bitcoin metrics first, being bullish for miners' revenue. Miners' revenue has seen an increase. They've seen transaction volume increase. They've seen the long-term holder supply get downgraded back to neutral, the time-weighted turnover get downgraded to bearish. But again, I think this is just kind of noise right now for the month change. Now, they also go through the second set of metrics, market cost basis, which is still bullish, perpetual futures basis, which is bullish. All this stuff, no change. We're going to keep going. And they first start off here with that, with those two levels that we talked about. So the 200-day moving average and the short-term realized price. Okay, so again, these are both hovering at about 62 or 63,000, and they say, looking at it retroactively, Bitcoin actually did surpass these prices on October 14th. Now, this is going to, I think, preview the fact that the next month's Bitcoin monthly report for October is actually going to be pretty bullish, because they've been waiting for Bitcoin to push past these levels of resistance, and now that it has, this is signaling a shift in the short-term downtrend that we've seen since we made an all-time high earlier in the year. So they've talked about the reason, they've talked about those two levels being important. They talked about the on-chain mean here being at 47K being a strong level of support, and I think that that's probably true. However, I'd be very surprised if it actually went down to 47K. That seems to me to be pretty unlikely at this point. Next, they talk about the net realized profits, and they use this net realized profit measure to indicate upward momentum towards the end of the year. Okay, so this is something that gives you an idea of the market equilibrium, how traders are feeling about the market. And according to ARK Invest, they had this 17,000 Bitcoin settled in the net profit at the end of September, and that means that you could potentially see some more upside from towards the end of the year. So this is one of the metrics that they're looking at, that they're saying, hey, according to this metric, we're going to wind up seeing a rally potentially by year end. And this is one of the metrics. Another of the metrics would be the short-term holder cost basis and the 200-day moving average in Bitcoin moving above those levels, which we already saw and talked about. They also talk about the network activity appearing to be in decline. All right, so again, I think this is kind of month-to-month just noise, but essentially what they're saying here is that there's been less network activity during the month of September, and that's not really that surprising when you consider the fact that usually when Bitcoin tends to be down for a month, when the price comes down for the month, you tend to see less activity for the Bitcoin blockchain. As the price increases, you tend to see more activity for the Bitcoin blockchain. So that's not really that big of a surprise. They also talk about the fact that they have a stablecoin measurement tool. So stablecoins like Tether or the Circles stablecoin. The reason why they talk about this is because they're trying to figure out, well, what's the purchasing power of the stable coins, and potentially speaking, can traders take the stable coins and then use to buy a Bitcoin? So they look at this. They have this specific the stable coin supply ratio oscillator, and they're, according to their measurement here, it's actually hit oversold. All right. And this part's really important. It's hit the lows last seen near the bottom of the bear market in 2022. So this is flashing an indicator that says, hey, things have gotten so bearish in the near term for Bitcoin, or for this supply of stable coins, the ratio oscillator, that it's similar to what we saw to the bear market in 2022. Now this would be bullish, okay, seeing that extremely oversold condition. And this means that you could potentially see another, again, a year-end rally for Bitcoin. So again, in ARK's view, this is very bullish. Next, they talk about the average profitability. This is kind of neutral according to their measurements here. They said at the end of September, with an index of 81% and a year-to-date low of 63%, the index still indicates a primary bullish environment. Okay, so that's the most important takeaway from this. They say it's primarily neutral, but within this little window, this is the most important part, which is that it still indicates a bullish environment for Bitcoin, which is something that I've talked about quite a bit in my last couple of videos. Now they go through and they talk about the overall economy, starting with Chinese equities. Chinese equities have rebounded thanks to Chinese stimulus, specifically from the People's Bank of China. Okay, so now the connection between this and Bitcoin aren't immediately apparent, but the whole idea here is that if the global economy gets stronger, then you can have more people who are interested in buying Bitcoin and alternative crypto as well. They also talk about the quits rate. Okay, so this is the number of people basically who are leaving their current job, and they're looking for a new job, and essentially they're looking to get paid more money. So this is seen as kind of a proxy for wage inflation. So this is coming down, which means that the labor market should be softening a bit, and that should lead to lower inflation because of the lower wage inflation. So I think this is actually bullish. I think ARK's view is currently looking at this from a neutral perspective, but I think for me, I think this would actually be bullish for the economy, because you want to see an environment where the inflation is coming down and not continuing up. And they also talk about the high yield spreads. Now, this is measuring the 10-year U.S. Treasury yields. And essentially what they're coming down and saying, they're saying that this means, based on the level it's at right now, it's relatively low compared to historical peaks, and it's indicating there's less credit stress despite the recent economic uncertainty. Now, again, I think this is bullish, but ARK is taking a more neutral view of this, and I personally look at this and I say less credit stress. Well, that's good for the economy, and if that's good for the economy, then the economy being better off than we expect should be good for Bitcoin and for crypto. All right, so that's the entirety of the report. I'm going to go ahead and give a quick summary. And so what's going on right now is I think ARK is setting the groundwork for a potentially very bullish next month Bitcoin monthly report. So they talked about the fact that Bitcoin has gone past the 200-day moving average, and on top of that, past the short-term holder cost average. And they also say that the economic backdrop is not as bad as we've seen in the past couple of months. And they have the supply, the stablecoin supply ratio oscillator that hit the oversold. That's a pretty big, important metric according to ARK. And the fact that we've seen Bitcoin maintain this momentum so far, I think we're going to wind up seeing a year-end rally for Bitcoin. And next month's Bitcoin monthly report is really going to drive home that report, is going to drive home that point. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, if you want to go ahead and have me break that down, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you click the bell icon for notifications, and I will put that out in about roughly a month or so when they actually put that report out. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this. If you think that ARK is right about being bullish about Bitcoin, if you think they're wrong about it, leave a comment below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.